Audio is rolling. All right. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Slice of Life podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, you know the deal. We bring on guests. We slice them up. They talk about their perspective of life. And today, on the other side of the table, we have Josh Parpia. Close.
Parpia.
There
you go.
Dude, Josh Parpia, ladies and gentlemen. You know, just look at the cameraman, just say hey to everybody,
How's
just
it going,
so they
guys?
can see your face and everything. But yeah, I met Josh at a coffee shop that I work at, Achilles Art Cafe. Yes, guys, you should go definitely check it out. I'm gonna keep plugging them because, dude, it's such a nice place, man. We'll talk about that a little bit too. But thanks for the coffee, man. Cheers.
Of course. Cheers.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Of course. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, dude. Thanks. Like again. But we'll get into what you do, man. First of all, what do you think about Achilles, bro? Like, I see it. That's where I met you. So this is what I was like.
You know, Achilles has a special place in my heart. You know, I started going there around like 2014.
Right.
I was fresh out of college, unemployed.
And that felt like home.
Yeah. You know, the people there, the groups of people that come in and out, they're amazing.
Right.
You know, and I just used to go there, you know, get a cortadito.
Cortadito.
Right? Yeah, it's addicting, right?
It is, dude. It's so addicting.
The owner will think we're going there to, you know, talk to him and, you know, converse with him and his personality, but we're really going for the cortadito.
If I show this to him, he's going to be like, he's never coming in here again.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
Yeah, but, you know, I used to, you know, plop down, open up the laptop,
Yeah.
you know, job applications, trying to learn how to code. You know, those were the early days.
I feel like that's such a big thing, too. Like, people wanting to code nowadays.
It is, you know. Everyone's trying to look for, you know, something to add to their resume.
That's true,
Some
man.
way to make themselves, you know, stand out above the crowd.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, you know, and that coffee shop, like I said, it's meant a lot to me. You know, I've gone over the years. You know, I took my now wife there for one of our first dates. You know,
Perfect date spot for those
it's
of
an
y'all.
amazing,
It's an amazing
date spot, right?
spot,
The
man.
lighting, you know, the local art that's around there.
Yes, man.
You know, it's a fantastic, you know, location.
Dude, I agree 100%, man. When I first found that place, I was like, oh my, this isn't like a normal coffee shop. Like, I go to a bunch of coffee shops, like Austin, kinda. Have you been to Austin's Coffee, or do you know what it is?
I know what it is. I haven't gone there yet.
Yeah, it's not as, you know, hallmarky as this one is.
Yeah.
But dude, when I heard that word for the first time, I was like, yeah, this kind of is like a friends sort of cafe sort of thing. And I don't know, man. I'm there all the time, and I know all the baristas there. And then I was like, hey, I lost my job. Can I have a job here? And Ash was like, you know what? Yeah, sure. And I was like, granted, like I'm in there almost all the time, and you know, if I can edit my podcast while I'm getting paid to, you know, give people coffee, I'll do it.
Yeah, you know, it's a really tight-knit family over there.
100%,
right?
man. Yeah.
And you get to know everyone, and it becomes a really, you know, small community of people.
Yes.
I've made so many contacts there, you know, networked so much, made so many friends there.
Exactly, man.
You know, so it's really been a sort of springboard for my life and my career.
And that's weird to say, right?
Yeah.
Like at a coffee shop, but dude, I met my first day. It was Monday, like officially, and that was last Monday, and I met this dude from NCIS. He was an actor.
Wow.
Yeah, that came here, like 13 years ago with his now wife also. But he knows that. He's like, hey, is Ash here? And like, I was like, yeah, he's in the back. And he was my first order too. Like, I was like, oh, I can't mess up his. He's an actor. Like, I was like, okay, trying to do all that stuff. And that's what I was like. I was like, what the heck, dude? This place has been here for this long, and an actor comes in from. He's here for the holidays, and he's just like, hey, I'm here to see an old. Is Ash still here? Like, I was like, yeah, he's still here.
Ash knows everyone, man.
Dude,
it's
it's
a
so
really
crazy.
well-known spot.
100%.
You know, people remember it when you go inside too. You know, you walk in, and it has that X factor that other coffee shops don't have.
The X factor. That's a great way to put it, man. Like, whether it's the art, whether it's just like the food or the service, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's good. It's really cool. I'm just glad to be a part of it, to be honest. Like, I recommend it to all of my people now, and I'm like, yeah, 20 minutes away, it's fine. It's like, it's cool. I mean, like, the drive over here and all the way over there, it's like, people are like, is it worth it? I'm like, yes, it's worth it. Y'all should go. Nah, man, I love it, and I love everything about it, and that's a good little segue point from right here to the coffee. Yeah. Is this from Achilles?
No, actually, this
like,
is from, it's a little French cafe in downtown Winter Garden. It's Rosalie. Rosalie. You know, amazing French pastries. They have wine. They have, you know, everything over there. So
I like that. I like that. Man,
Yeah.
I was like, you said you live in Winter Garden? I shouldn't even
Yep.
say that, but Winter Garden's a great place.
Yep. No, yeah. You know, we moved to downtown Winter Garden about a month or two ago. Amazing area.
Right.
Amazing downtown area. You can kind of walk, you know, to the bars, the restaurants.
Dude,
really
so
cute.
nice. Like downtown area is
Yeah.
really cool.
The Christmas lights around there, it really makes you feel like a small, you know, it's a pretty small community there
100%,
too. So
man.
we really love it. You know, you get a chance to go into Orlando if you want, the whole Orlando scene, but it's kind of our little town right outside of Orlando.
Right,
so.
right. That's nice, man. I'm starting to get more into like Florida and how everything is in Florida. And I mean, granted, I've been here for 2 years. Wow, 2 years now. I've been in Florida, but like see when there's this thing called a Disney bubble, and I lived in that Disney bubble for a good portion. When I was like tired of it, I was like, you know what? I want to go explore. Like I want to go see what the fuck else is out there. Dude, I love Florida. Like I didn't think I was gonna love Florida when just because of the heat, but when you go and like start looking at like downtown Orlando, or you're just an hour and a half to 2 hours away from each coast. And I didn't get into surfing until like this last year. So I started like, oh my gosh, I can do these on the weekends now. Like it's so convenient. Yeah. But dude, let's talk about why I wanted you to come on. Like summarize who you are, what you do, and you know, let people know you.
Sure.
Yeah?
So, you know, I'm trying to think of where to start here because I do a couple things.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, backtrack to Achilles. I'm in there, you know, applying for jobs. You know, I get a job my background is in biomedical science. You know, it's sort of a medical background. And so I get a job with a company that, you know, provides medical devices, and it's involved in the radiation industry, you know, radiation oncology, you know, and so they provide these devices that really provide quality assurance to, you know, hospitals and their patients. And so my job right now is, you know, I'm very grateful for this job. I get to travel around America, you know, once in a while internationally.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, I get to help doctors kind of, you know, learn these devices so they can more effectively treat, you know, their cancer patients. You know, think about it. You know, if a cancer patient has a tumor, you know, we want to make sure that the radiation is as precise, you know, as accurate as possible. You know, any wavering in that radiation beam, you're going to start hitting some healthy cells.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I really do love the job. It's really cool. You know, it really brings you out of your shell when you start traveling for work. And, you know, that's been a large part of my life now. I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years. You know, actually before this job, I was pretty introverted. You know, trouble like talking to people and, you know, trouble, you know, connecting with people, right? On a real level, right? When you start traveling, you know, you get a lot of time to yourself too. You know, you start introspecting, you know, you start, you know, self-improving. You know, you get a lot of time to think, listen to podcasts, right? You get a lot of time to read, and you get a lot of downtime. And it, you know, makes you think, you know, what do you want your life to look like, you know, 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now? You know, how do you want to shape your life, right? And so traveling helps because, you know, you meet so many people on a daily basis. You know, you're put face to face with strangers, you know, on the regular, right? Whether it's, you know, your Lyft driver, your Uber driver, you know, on the plane, at the airport, you know, at the hotel, if you go out to eat.
That's true, man.
You know, so you get really used to making conversation, you know, talking about things that either don't matter, just surface level conversations, or you get used to, you know, having really deep connections with people.
Right.
You know, and so you get a chance to build these relationships, right? Meaningful relationships. And it's really cool. It's really powerful.
Right? It is, man. I mean, this is why I love doing this, but like, to go back to a little bit to what you said, a lot of people don't know how to do that. Like, I guess the social anxiety or just not being socially aware. Yeah. But they don't know how to distinct a like, hey, what's up conversation with a like more intimate conversation, and that sometimes is a downfall for some people, even in, you know, the line of work that you're in. Obviously, you're talking to a lot of people, you're going to have to know how to adapt.
Yes.
Is that a good way to put
Yeah,
it?
no, that's a great way of putting it. You know, you got to learn how to adapt, and you got to learn how to connect with people.
Right.
You know, I was actually talking about this recently, but you know, right now when we pass someone, you know, on the street, or
Right.
you know, if you meet someone, one of the first questions is, "How are you?" Right? And it can be a very impersonal question. You know, some people can.
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
you think about how many times you know say, or even asked, you know, "Hey, how are you?" And you're like, "I'm good." Right? And sometimes that could be the dead end to the conversation.
True.
Right? Next time someone asks you, "How are you?" You know, try to be more honest. Try to be more transparent. Right? I mean, like, "Man, you know, I've had a really great day today. You know, I had a great conversation with my boss, and I think I'm fast tracking, you know, to upper management." You know, or "I'm having a really crappy day today. You know, my puppy is sick and not letting me sleep at night." You know, try to give another layer, because when you give more, right, in these conversations, you know, they'll reciprocate.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I was going to say. Like, they would reciprocate.
Yeah, they'll connect with you, right? And
Right.
they will, you know, give you a part of yourself.
100%.
Right? So, so next time you're asked, "How are you?" You know, take it a little deeper, or, you know, maybe even try a more direct question or a more direct approach rather than just, How are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think once you get better with language, or like, not even say just the language, but like body language is a big thing with it. It's not just even just being like monotone with everything, but at the same time, it's how you exaggerate it. I guess for sometimes that kind of makes it the point across per se. Like if you are actually like doing really good, it's like, "I'm doing really well." Like, and then you just kind of like do that, or obviously it's like, "I'm really, you know, I'm just not feeling it." And that body language definitely has a lot to say. And dude, you're not wrong, man. I think. Do you think that there's like something in us that tells us go and meet more people to kind of get this whole new experience from from everybody?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I think everyone's a little different. You know, I think some people are extremely comfortable, you know, being in their own bubble.
Yes,
you know,
having their small bubble.
having their small bubble.
Yeah.
You know, being pretty introverted. You know, everyone's different, right?
This is where I was going with, is that, do you think it's changed with your whole, like, introverted to extroverted sort of thing?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Do you always stay and that's what I mean, like, for other people, like, should they stay in their small bubble? Because I feel like you didn't. If you go and talk to anybody.
Oh, now I can. But yeah, I was extremely introverted.
Right.
And even when I used to, you know, pre-travel, you know, pre-career, when I used to meet people, you know, I could carry a conversation, but it never really resonated with me as it does now. And I think, you know, traveling added to this transition, you know, from being introverted to extroverted.
Right.
You know, just opening yourself up a bit more, and so you receive a bit more, right? And building these relationships and connections.
Right.
So I do think it's possible to change, you know, under the right circumstances.
Yeah.
I don't think it's easy, right?
It's not gonna be easy. It's discomfortable. Yeah.
Uncomfortable. There you go, right? You got to get
used.
used to, you know, if you want to make a change, right? Like, for example, I love the person I am today, right? And it's very different than the person I was 5 years ago. Right. But, you know, there's a part of you that's got to want it, right? There's a part of you that's you have to want to change. You have to want to improve, in my case, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't come easy. So, you know, someone told me, you know, you have to be comfortable living in discomfort, right? You got to get used to things not always going the way you want, right?
Yeah.
You got to get used to, you know, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to be flexible, right?
Yeah.
Especially during these days, man, this year. Right?
We'll get to that,
right?
man. Yes,
this
year. This year's just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like,
it's,
by the way, you can cuss.
Okay. It's been a really tough year, you know, and countless reasons why, right? But, you know, it's really taught us, you know, we have to learn to adapt. We have to learn to be flexible,
right?
You know, we can't carry our lives like we used to, right? Everyone's life has changed. Even if your family hasn't had any immediate impact, you know, from the pandemic, your lifestyle definitely has, right?
Yes, I was about to say, how so? What do you mean? Like, what do you think has to change?
That's a good question.
Yeah. obviously you're going to go through changes whether you liked it or not. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what 2020 literally did. And whether it's to be more introspective, like for your self-being and health, and like mental health, obviously it's also the social like surroundings and what you have to do to kind of just, you know, also just be safe and do all those other things. What do you think though?
Yeah. So I think, you know, one of the comings of this year is that, and let me speak for me personally.
Do your thing, man.
Yeah.
I love when people speak personally.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I think you have time to be really, really choosy about who you want to keep around in your circle. Right. You have these times where you have to think, you know, am I comfortable spending time with this person in this situation? Right. Who do I want to devote my time to?
Right.
You know, who do I want to keep in my circle? You know, you are the average of, you know, your closest five mates,
friends,
right? Right. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
And so, you know, who do you want to invest your time into? Time is finite, right?
Dude,
right?
someone that understands it.
Yeah, time is finite. We don't have, you know, the luxury of unlimited time. Right. And so with the limited amount of time we have, especially, you know, during this year with coronavirus, you know, it's really evident. Look around, you know, people's lives are cut short.
Yeah.
You know, people's lives are impacted negatively way earlier than you would think.
100%.
And so time is finite. And so you really got to think about who you want to invest that into. Right. And the type of person that you want to be, because the people you surround yourself with, you know, will manifest who you are.
I can agree with that 100%. And that's the thing. Like the thing that kind of draws me back is, everybody has to find their way to kind of be uncomfortable. Yeah. And for some people, I think, do you consider yourself a very confident person?
Oh yeah.
And do you feel like that is that correlated with the fact that you're more out there now, even with
definitely?
Do you think that those two go hand in hand? Like,
that's, you know, I would say there might be a relationship between those two. Yeah. I would also say that, you know, there are people who are pretty introverted and keep to themselves, and because they're very confident in themselves, right?
This is what I'm saying. I don't even know because I've met some people that keep to themselves and still pretty confident, like, you know, or maybe they just know what they want. I think that's the best way to put it.
You know, they might be more confident within themselves that, you know, they don't need to, you know, have the need to, you know, go out more and make, you know, more connections. Right. Whereas I think others really, you know, basically being extroverted, you know, you go out and you feed off this energy from other people.
Yes. Right? Oh man, even in podcast, dude, like, I would bring up another conversation, like another topping point that did we just get energized again? Yeah. Like, we just start going on about something totally new, and we just like literally felt each other's energy, and we're like, oh yes, like this is so crazy. Yeah. So, dude, tell me, like, in those travels, like, what exactly would you do? You know, and if you don't mind talking about it.
Sure. So, you know, in the travels I've done so far, you know, primarily domestic travel. You know, I've been to mostly the majority of the states. Yeah, the majority of the states. It's been a mix. You know, I got to go to all the large cities. You know, LA, Seattle, New York, DC, name it. You know, I've been there.
That's awesome, man.
But also really, really remote locations. You know, talking about, you know, places in the Midwest where the population of the town might not exceed like 10,000. Right. And so you really get a chance to meet an insane variety of, you know, people who have different ideals, you know, different beliefs. They might not, you know, see someone that looks like you for the next 3 to 5 years, if ever, right? And so coronavirus has impacted a lot of that, right? Yes. Yeah. Traveling during coronavirus, right? It's
so you still have to do it even now, like even go like and travels. Like, obviously, this is why I'm saying, like, if you have to do that, man, shit, you have to do it. Like, and that's somewhat of a hard truth. But is there a pre-COVID like way to do how you used to do things, and post-COVID?
Definitely. You know, pre-COVID, we would travel. You know, meet. You know, you're with your client for the majority of the day, but then when the day's out, right, you have free reign in the city, right? You can go out in the most popular spot. You can try to connect with maybe a friend that moved, especially in the major cities, right? Friends in DC,
Right.
California, Seattle,
Right.
wherever. Things are different these days. Again, you have to be really choosy about who you put your time into. Do you trust this person you haven't seen in 3 years? Are you aware of, are they wearing a mask when they go out? Are they not wearing a mask? Because at the end of the day, I have to go back home, right? You have family to think about, right?
Sure.
You have elderly relatives. If you're an asymptomatic carrier, who knows, what kind of havoc you can, wreak on your family.
Right.
So, yeah, these days, you meet with the client, you go back to the hotel, which will most likely be close to empty, right? You'll park your car in the parking lot. You'll be one of the few cars there. You'll order some DoorDash, right?
Dude, yeah. You try to
You
figure out what to do with your time.
Yeah. You figure out what to do with your time. You order DoorDash. They bring it to your room. You stay in your room until the next day of work or until you fly out. Right. You want to limit the amount of people that you see on these travels. Right. And so it's tough, man. It's really put a damper on traveling.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
On having fun. Traveling during coronavirus is almost a taboo topic these days. You get grilled. Why are you traveling? Is it necessary for you to travel? Right. Can you postpone this travel?
Right.
And so it's tough. But it's kind of a good segue into, what I want to talk to here today.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to travel, right? And do and work. Grateful for employment during this time when we're seeing, this age of, there's so much unemployment, right?
So much uncertainty, for anybody.
Yeah.
So
much uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
But also, when you work for someone else, right? Or when you're part of a company, right? It's a lot of, you're being told what to do at what time, right? And, with so much time on everyone's hand, right? Everyone's at home now, you really get a chance to kind of branch out, maybe create some more passive revenue or income streams, right?
Yeah.
Or try to improve yourself in a different way. And so, what I think is really cool is, have you heard of the FIRE movement?
So, no, I haven't. And I know you wanted to talk about it. So, for those of y'all that don't know what it is, let him explain.
Yeah. So, it's an acronym, right? The FIRE movement. It stands for financial independence and retire early. Financially independent, retire early.
So,
Okay.
I've heard things around that, but I've never heard that saying. I've read Dave Ramsey, and his is do what others won't.
Yeah.
To live the way that I don't know, something like that.
Yeah,
I need to reread it.
Yeah, Dave Ramsey is pretty restrictive in his ideals.
You're not wrong, man, but I feel like adding that perspective to today's living definitely does do a little bit of thinking twice, before impulsively doing things.
Oh, definitely.
So this is what I mean. His are very restrictive, but honestly, maybe some people need some restricting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And not saying that that's right. I just think that's another, so I just think people should read it just so the same way I think people should watch The Inside Job or watch what's the other movie that was with Ryan Gosling and the movie about the 2008.
Man, I'm not the one to ask about
I
movies.
know, bro, but you would love this movie. It's about the housing market, how it crashed. But you should watch it. Why am I blanking right now?
Yeah.
I'll freaking think about it. Once I think about it, I'll let you know.
Yeah. So financial independence, retire early. So what does that mean, right? So basically, it's the idea as you start your career. It doesn't even have to be when you're young, but you got to start at some point,
right?
And it's the idea if you maximize your savings, right, and you lower your expenditures, right, you're saving insane amounts of money every month if you can, right? Talking about 50+% of your income. If you can save it, stockpile it, invest it correctly, right? You can retire in your 30s or your 40s easily. And it's just a math problem, right? It's just a math problem of you know, how much can I cut back on my spending? How much can I save and invest? And, you know, we're in our 20s, you know, we have the magic of compound interest, right? Compound interest.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
I know, right? So the market, you know, if you're talking about the stock market, the economy, the stock market historically has gone up maybe 8%, you know, within the last, I don't know, 50, 100 years, right? I don't want to say you can bank on it going up 8%, but historically, you're going to have years where it's a complete outlier. Like, for example, take this year, right? Every time there's positive news about COVID, right? Like I'm talking positive vaccine news.
The shit goes up.
It explodes.
It explodes, yeah.
Right? The next day, or maybe over the course of the next week, it'll slowly decline, only to shoot up again when we hear some positive news.
Right.
And as a result of this, like, you know, those who have invested very aggressively, right? And by aggressive, I mean more stocks, less bonds. You know, stocks are more aggressive, bonds are more, you know, conservative.
Right.
You've seen increases of like 30, 40%, right? Now, the amount you've invested is almost, you know, it's increased substantially.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, going back to that, right? So you want to save as much as you can, you want to invest as much as you can, and spend, you know, a small amount. And just these little decisions every day of being really cognizant of what you're spending, it multiplies. It multiplies over time, you know, with compound interest as you get into, you know, your 30s, 40s. You're talking about now 20, 30 years of your money being invested and just keeps growing and growing.
Right.
Right. To the point where you don't need to work anymore. You know, you can just live off investments and you can do whatever you want, right? And retirement looks different for everyone.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I can say looks totally different. This whole idea of retirement is sort of weird because maybe it's just I'm just looking at it from like what traditionally I was supposed to see it from, which was my parents' perspective, which was the idea of like working as hard as you can until you're 60, bam, like this is when retirement is supposed to be kicking. But then I'm over here looking, I'm so glad you're on here because I mean, granted everybody is going to say they're experts in so many different things, but these are just talking points. We're just talking. Yeah. And for what I was trying to say is that there's like other dilemmas, like is that even going to be a thing like when we're older, or is the idea of retirement itself going to change and say that's what it is? Yeah. And even just passive income and all this other stuff, that's all new things. Like this is what people are striving for. Like we'll get into like even the younger generation, they want video games, like they're just like all influencers and you know, I'm over here starting a podcast, you know, it's so weird, like, you know what I mean?
I think retirement looks different for everyone. And I feel like, you know, where my upbringing and my parents came from, it's similar to what, you know, you were saying about your parents. You know, we're used to seeing the 9 to 5, you know, work really hard, and, you know, at some point you retire and you can actually decide to stop working or keep going. And it's really different these days. You know, people in our generation, we have more options, right? You know, people in our generation, you know, the idea of working 9 to 5 indefinitely for the rest of your life, how does that sound, right?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Working 9 to 5 for the rest of your life until you're 60, 65, whatever retirement age.
Right.
Right. So that's about 40 years for you. 40 years, right? A 9 to 5, or say 8 hours a day.
Right.
For the next 40 years.
The best answer I can give you is that there are some people that like that, that want that. Maybe aren't the go-getters that I would say me and you are. I'm not going to tell them they're wrong, but I'm not going to tell them, like, don't do that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that's the perfect answer. And let me tell you why, right? Financial independence is all about having the choice.
Right.
The choice to work.
Exactly.
If you want to.
That's
right?
That makes sense.
The freedom of time to invest your time again into people or things you want to do.
Right.
Not things you're told to do, right? You don't have a boss that's like, hey, you got to have this report in by 3.
Right.
We have a meeting at 4. You know, maybe you can log off around 5:30 or 6 if you're done with what you have to do.
Right.
Right. You have full control of your day. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the idea of financial independence is an idea of the freedom of time. Right. So when you're around, let's say you're in your 40s and you're financially independent, right? You can still work. There's nothing stopping you from working, but it's about working on things that mean something to you.
Right.
Right.
You know what's crazy is that we'll get back on this, but it's just kind of like a segue to it. There are a bunch of older generations that are working at Disney, right? Mm-hmm. And not to say that there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that there's a sort of thing that I started acknowledging that they got their Social Security, they got their whatever tenure, whatever, like they spent whatever time they had to spend at their previous job, and then they're just working this job. Why? Because are they bored? Are they?
Yeah,
you know, and this is what I'm saying. Like, is that what will happen when you're 60? You know, and then let's cut it down to like 40. I don't want to look at it that way. The way I look at it is like, obviously maybe they like doing what they're doing, but I want to go do more, you know? Yeah. And I think now more than ever, I think more people can go and explore and do more things. Cause there's, like you said, there's more, things that we can do. I think that's the best way to put it. Yeah. I don't know. You can do with whatever you want. That's what was on my mind.
No, that's great. You know, again, retirement looks different for everyone. Right. I'm sure you have some cast members working at Disney that, you know, don't have to work potentially.
Literally. Yeah.
But they do, you know, they love the spirit of Disney. They love the people they see every day. They love their coworkers. They love the environment they're in.
This is why I can't say like, oh, maybe they just need another job. They probably really love Disney. You know, they just love it.
Like, you know, for me, what retirement looks like, right? It's a lot of traveling. Right. I want to see pretty much everything, right? I want to have so much time for my family, right? I want to be able to pour so much time into them, right? I don't want to be stuck behind a cubicle, right? And I want to do things that matter to me. Right. And so, again, to each their own. But the idea of the FIRE movement is having the choice to do so. Right. And it's not...
This is already bringing up more questions, but I love it.
Yeah, okay, keep going. And I think having the choice is so powerful because, you know, you can have a choice. The whole idea of a choice is having 2 options, right? At least 2 options.
More than one option.
More than one option, right? You either have to work or you don't have to work. Or you can choose to work. And that's the idea of the whole movement. Yeah. And so there are a lot of ways to get there, right? You have really high income earners. You're talking like your doctors, lawyers, engineers.
The things that we need, but also the people. Yeah. I think those are also the people that like not strive for the 9 to 5, but can succeed in the 9 to 5. And that's why I go back to that same answer that I say. I'm like, you know, I'm not saying that everybody wants 9 to 5, but some people, they know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know, a lot of them are passionate about what they do.
Right.
And a lot of them, you know, they can, again, it has to do with their expenditures too. It's not just how much money you bring in, right?
Right.
If you're living an extremely lavish lifestyle, right, despite what you make, it's just going to cancel out in the end.
True.
And you don't have, again, you know, you have doctors working until they're 60 plus, right? Yeah. And some of them have to. They don't have the choice of stopping, right? They're either providing for their family, they're the sole, you know, breadwinner, or they're providing for their kids, or just for their own housing. You know, it's a balance, and it's a decision every day to, you know, control your spending, control, you know, be very wary of what you decide to pour your money into.
And I mean, the best thing I can say is that we're 20, so we can kind of make fuck ups,
Yeah.
but at the same time, don't make expensive fuck ups.
You have you have the luxury of time right now.
Right now, yeah.
You have the ability to be really risky in what you want to do.
Yes.
The choices you make will have ripple effects, but
right.
when you have more time on your hands, you're able to either mitigate those ripple effects or ride those ripples into something extravagant, right?
Right 100%.
So yeah, it's different, but it starts now. The earlier you start, the earlier you're more cognizant of what you're doing on a daily basis, and the more intentional you are, it can only provide dividends in the future.
True. And I mean, and this isn't just, I think that kind of rolls into other areas of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like when you start earlier, and this could mean anything, man. Like I don't want to just go on numbers and ones and zeros and say like, oh, this is what we do, because obviously that same mentality kind of is correlated to other aspects. And what I mean is that like if you start earlier on in your life and take care of your body, you don't have to worry about yourself, or you have smaller risks of like something bad happening later on, if that makes sense. And I think it goes on mentality, man. Like if you learn, this was kind of going into like the second question. Are you, what are you? Like I'm like, what's your race?
My parents are Indian.
Okay.
So I'm Indian.
So the reason I ask is because were they very traditional, and was it hard for you? Because I'm Mexican, bro. Like, you know how hard it was? Just kind of like say, I want to go do this at Disney, and they're the hard workers of like they're pretty much the backbone of fucking America, and I want to say every minority is, but it's like what was it hard for them to kind of like, were they very traditional with you? Like
so they have an interesting story, right? So they immigrated to America from India, I think back in 1990.
Okay.
And if there are any Indian, listeners out there,
dude, bro, this is why I love bringing on different perspectives,
or,
man.
Immigrant listeners, like, the story is they came, with a very small amount of cash and built themselves up to what they are today. And it comes with a lot of hard work, manual labor, being very intentional, again, with what you're doing, and working at, they work at convenience stores, right? Gas station, convenience store business. Right. And, when I was growing up, they're a bit restrictive, right? But in the best ways, I think I was a very underachieving, kid growing up, and I kind of needed that structure that they provided. Without structure, I tended to be a bit more complacent, right?
I think that's anybody, to be honest. Like, if you don't have a lot of structure, dude, that's rare. If you find like some people that can have some knowledge on that shit. Like if you're not in a kind of good structured way, like if you have a good family, is what I mean. You're gonna want to strive for that shit.
No, and everyone's gonna say that. Not actually, maybe not everyone. I've had the best parents, right? Taught me right from wrong. Taught me really good habits, habits that I can scale and grow with. But when I was young, I did struggle with authority, right? I did. A bit rebellious, you could say, right? Middle school, high school.
Oh, dude, 100%. Yeah.
Right.
I can't say the same. I was an athlete, so this is why I was like, I had to be there. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. So, but as you age, and as you age, parents start to loosen up a bit,
Sure.
and you get to learn more about yourself that way. You learn that everything that was kind of restrictive was for the better, right? They had your best intentions at heart. Right. And then, now at my age, I look back and I'm like, man, that stuff was so helpful, right? And, crap, I might be like that, to my hypothetical next kid.
It's like your kid. Yeah, you're going to be like that. Wait, do you have kids?
No.
Not yet.
No, not yet. Not yet. I am married, no kids yet.
Yeah.
But and, growing up with, my parents, and even now, I'm lucky they're still local. They're still both healthy.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I get to see them, maybe once a week. And what's really cool is, again, it goes into my whole thinking, right? They immigrated, they're still, busting their ass,
right.
Working from really early in the morning to the afternoon.
Yeah.
Right. It's a little different for them now. Now they have the choice of working. Right.
Right.
They're at the stage now where if they wanted to cut back, they could, but they choose to go and work every day. They love it, especially my dad. He loves what he does. He has the same routine every day,
right.
And it brings him a lot of joy.
See, the routine, I think that's what I was saying. Like, maybe that's just the old fashioned, but a lot of people still love that. And that's the thing. Like, my dad's the same way, man. Like, that dude works every day. Like, with 4 kids, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I kudos the fucking parents that do that shit, Like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm over here not even, like, I don't want to make that sacrifice yet. And I'm like, I'm in my 20s. But it's so crazy, man. That's so awesome, though.
Yeah.
And in all of that, like, did they understand, or did they, I guess, understand, like, where you were coming from or where you wanted to go?
Kind of, it kind of evolved,
Okay.
especially after I graduated from college, and I really started again, you start thinking about what you want your life to look like.
Right.
But think about the American dream, right? They come in here, they bust their asses for 20, 30 years.
Exactly.
Right?
Just for you to say,
right?
you know what?
And their
Screw
kid,
that.
right? And their kid has the ability to choose not to work, right? At a very early age, and to choose what to pour, their time and money into. Luxuries that they didn't have at that age, right?
100%.
When they were my age, they're worrying about, where's my next meal coming from?
Exactly.
How long am I going to have to work today? And when is this day going to end?
Right.
And, looking forward to maybe a date in the next month or two, we can maybe do something a little fun.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Think of that luxury that, we have now, right? The opportunities that we've been given.
Yeah.
Right. Think about the places that we get to live in, right? Like, those of you on YouTube, this is a beautiful house we're in right
Dude,
now, right?
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Johnny lives in a beautiful house, right? And, none of this would be possible, right, without the sacrifices that, your parents made, your hard work, and, and this is the outcome. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And this is why, dude, I don't know. A lot of things just don't get me mad as much as, like, back in the day. Like, I don't know. I would be so mad at, like, everything's my, or, your fault. Everything, it has to be, I don't know. I just don't get upset about things as much as I used to anymore. And I don't know if it's maybe because of I know how to, like, handle them better. Mm-hmm. I know how to, like, get to a place without it kind of, like, I don't know, man. I don't know how to put it, but I just know for a fact that I know there's a correlation with that, with the fact that some of my decision making is a lot better knowing that I don't worry about things as much as I used to. And I think that's a plus. I don't think you should worry about it because, you age a lot faster. Yeah. And, like, your gray hairs and stuff. This is why I respect the lawyers and doctors and all those other people because, dude, they're I don't know. If they can take care of themselves and do it, there's some people that can. Yeah. But if you can't, then, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm right with you, right?
Right.
We're too young to stress out about everything.
We have the realtors here. And he's got kids. You gotta do that. I don't know anything.
Give me one second. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So sorry for that. Hard to explain everything that just happened, but how are you feeling?
Yeah, so some context out there for you guys for what just happened. We got a knock on the door from a landlord or their agent who want to come in and enter the premises without giving 24 hours notice, which they can't do, unless there's an emergency or they fear for someone's health or there's something crazy like a flood happening in here. Which is a great segue into the sort of last segment I wanted to talk to you guys about, right?
Yes, man.
And that's all about real estate investing, but
that was a brief 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, but we're back. This was a good thing because we were also going to be talking about real estate, and he has a bit of knowledge about real estate, and he wanted to talk about that. So this was just a coincidence waiting to happen, and it happened. So that was funny. And go ahead, man. I don't know.
So, feel free to, ask me questions in the middle. Like, so pretty much, what we were talking about earlier, the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, what are some things we can do to get there as quick as possible?
Yeah.
How can I accelerate, not only my earnings and save more, but how can I accelerate my timeline and have the choice to work, before I'm 40,
Yeah.
How do I do that?
How do you do that?
Right. So real estate is an awesome way of doing that. And now you got to be really careful now, right? Real estate means different things to different people. To some people, real estate might mean getting your real estate license and buying or selling houses. To other people, their only experience with real estate might be being a tenant, where you're rudely interrupted by a landlord or an agent, without notice, right? These are all, people's experiences, with real estate. So what I would love to talk about is, real estate investing in a sense of sort of building your own portfolio of properties, right?
I like that you clarify that there is so many avenues that you can go with real estate. And it's so true.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could say that about anything, honestly, like whether it's like stocks or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think through the test of time, I mean, going into real estate is a lot better, like I would say.
Yeah.
Credible.
So there's so many things you can do, right? And even within real estate, there's so many types of things you can choose to invest in, houses, duplexes, apartment buildings, condos, townhomes, name it. You can invest in the land before it's even built on.
That's what's crazy.
Right? You can, tiny homes.
This is what
tiny homes.
Tiny house living.
If you guys are on Netflix, there's the tiny home movement is real, right? People are looking to downsize and simplify their lives,
100%.
right? Live more minimalistically.
Yes.
And again, there's so many paths you can choose.
You can choose. This is why I love this. So keep going with what you were saying.
Yeah. So again, the whole purpose, for me at least, right? How do I get to this? What they call it a FIRE number.
Okay.
Right? If I reach this number in my investments, technically, I don't have to work for the rest of my life. I can choose to stop and just live off investments.
Right.
So, a really easy way to calculate, hypothetically, if you wanted to calculate, your FIRE number, what would you do, right? So the way you do that, think about your expenses on an annual basis, right? And, add up your annual expenses, right? So these are your monthly expenses, maybe your rent payment or your mortgage payment, credit cards, grocery shopping, food, drink, entertainment.
Right.
Add up all your expenses. Let's say, on a yearly basis, you spend $50,000 a year.
Right.
$40,000, $30,000, it doesn't matter. Whatever number you have, right? Multiply it by 25, right? Those are 25 years worth of your expenses. Whatever number you get, maybe it's $1 million, right? That's what you need to have invested for you not to work for the rest of your life.
Right.
Oof.
So is that like a type of number, like a sense of relief type of number?
Yeah, it can be to a lot of people.
Yes.
Right. To some who are striving for it, it's a motivator, right? It becomes a game. And this is what I was gonna say too, because you're in the expertise of and you remind me so much of my uncle, dude. Because my uncle, he's also someone that goes out and talks to other people for his line of work. And he talked about the idea of also being an introvert. And I think that's what kind of like works now as someone in that line of work, that it kind of propels you into more networking, better sales, and doing better numbers, getting better quality things, just because the intimacy now it's valued. It's valued. And is that true even in that sense? Like, not just in your line of work, but I guess I think it propels you even in real estate, to be honest. Oh, it does, dude. Real estate, is a networking business.
Yes.
Right. The more people you know, the more people you can reach out to.
Right.
Right. You can sell or buy more houses.
Right.
You'll get more deals sent to you. The more people you know, the better. Right. And especially in these days, everyone has a real estate license.
Yeah.
Right?
It's very
It's so competitive,
Yeah.
right? If I, tell someone, if I post on my Facebook, hey, I'm looking to sell my house, guaranteed I will get at least 15 to 20, direct messages, comments, either, for people wanting to sell my house.
Mm-hmm.
So what separates, you from other real estate agents? Right. Sometimes it can come down to marketing,
Mm-hmm.
Intimacy, like you said, like word of mouth referrals.
Yes.
Like, if you trust me and I'm like, hey,
Well, trust is a big thing. That's what I mean.
Yeah, it's all trust.
Yes.
It's a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's like, dude, blindly say
dude,
shit.
I'll give you, and you're just blindly paying it without knowing. And people our age get taken advantage of.
This is what I mean.
Yeah,
This is
dude.
why I'm like, what the
People
heck?
our age get taken advantage of when buying or selling houses. People our age, let's say I'm 28 right now,
Yeah.
right?
Still
They're-
young.
Yeah. there are a bunch of people, coming out of maybe med school,
Right.
or some professional school, or who have saved enough up in their careers.
Right.
They're reaching that stage where they're thinking about buying their first house.
Yes.
Thinking about maybe, they're a bit more solidified in their career, thinking about putting down their roots,
Mm-hmm.
in an area, whether it be Orlando or, an area, and thinking about buying a house rather than, renting.
Right.
And so it's really easy to get taken advantage of.
I agree.
Yeah. Every time a house is bought or sold, right? Technically, real estate agents make about 6% of commissions. So, you can think about a really cheap $100,000 apartment. Just commissions, your buyer agent who helps
Right.
the person buy the house will make $3,000.
Right.
And whoever helps sell that apartment will make $3,000.
Right.
Except here in Orlando, you won't get a house for $100,000.
Nope.
Right. What's the median sale price? Maybe around $300,000, $350,000.
Yeah, I've seen low to 250, but it depends on the area.
Again, depends on the area,
Yeah.
right? I would say on average maybe around $300,000.
Yeah.
Right. So if you multiply that out, you're basically your seller agent and your buyer agent are almost making 10 grand each.
Yes.
Right. And it's tough to shell away that amount of money at our age, right? Especially without really knowing where it's going. Right?
And would you say that pre-COVID or post-COVID? Like
Both. Yeah, millennials or people we're getting taken advantage of.
Right.
Again, real estate is a networking business, and
100%.
it's also a business where a lot of realtors you see will be a little older.
Uh-huh.
And they'll have their way of doing things. We'll have our way of doing things.
Right.
Right now I'm in the real estate investing space.
Right.
Right. My avenues for maybe finding deals will be really different than a realtor who's maybe 60 years old and
Yes.
has been doing this for a while.
100%. Yeah.
Right. They may have all the contacts, and have networking all done and have people bring them stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We have the power of social media now. Right. Crazy example, one of our investors, I found them a deal a couple months ago. We bought a deal through the Facebook marketplace.
That's crazy.
We bought a 2-bedroom townhouse off the Facebook marketplace. That was sufficient for their needs.
Right.
And that's why, especially on Instagram,
Yeah.
I'm not too active in terms of, posting, but I do post stories,
That's what I
a
do
little glimpse into, what my day kind of looks like. And I find that the more I post stuff about real estate or real estate investing, the more I'm getting people our age, reaching out
To
and
you.
to
Yes.
me, right? And saying, hey, how do I get involved in this? Hey, I'm thinking about buying my first house, and how do I make sure that I'm not getting screwed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or, how do I build a portfolio of properties,
Right.
Because my whole goal is to eventually have enough properties to where I'm getting paid rent every month. And
Pretty much that's taking care of your income.
not only will it eclipse, but if eventually it'll supersede what I'm
Right.
making with my day job,
Right.
right? And then my fire number is that much closer, right?
Right.
And my choice of retirement is right there. And it's a matter of scaling it, right?
Agreed.
So, but real estate is risky. You know, how do you know what to put your money into?
I feel like that's what kind of like scares people into getting into it, if that makes sense. And not even say like, dude, because I dabbled into it a little bit, man, I get this house. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying I would still continue to it, but it's just like, it's just the not the frustration, but it's the amount of time. And also it's like once you get committed, how would you know where to start? You know what I mean? Because right after that, that's why people sign up with other, companies and, or other, like 21st century, right?
Yeah.
They would sign up with like those types of companies and just because of the contacts, the fact that it's, they're legit.
It's a reputable
yes.
brand.
Yeah.
I recognize the brand.
Yes.
The problem is, even these large companies, not to take away from them, but, anyone can get their real estate license.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And so, they can pretty much hire anyone they want.
Anyone.
Right? My recommendation would be to go local, right? Rather than going to these huge brands that have, national, they can spread out nationally, their realtors.
Right.
I want someone that's been in the area for at least 10 years.
That knows the area.
Right. That knows the market, that'll say, hey, don't buy over there. That area is not on the up and up.
Right.
Buy over there. Those houses are appreciating like crazy.
Yeah.
And in 5 or 10 years, you might, you can even sell it and upsize if you want through no money out of your own pocket.
Right.
Right. And, those are the people I value, the people with really deep local knowledge.
Right.
Rather than, just a national brand they'll send you automated house listings every day.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think our generation still is going to want to deal with technology per se, but it is like ingrained in it. But you're right. Like even just kind of like that whole lockbox situation, like, man, you kind of want to be sold on something, a dream, like, you have to be good with people. And maybe it's undervalued right now, but I think I think throughout time, I think it's still going to hold up. And I think that's where I'm kind of going with that.
Even the way we buy houses now is different than generations before us.
Right.
Before you had to go there, you had to walk through the house, you had to see everything for yourself. Nowadays, right, how I see some houses being bought, they're bought sight unseen. They're houses that investors and even, residential people who want to go and live there, they'll go on Zillow, which, by the way, is the social media for millennials, right? You go on Zillow, you can look at houses forever. Yeah. It's addicting.
It's a very
You
addicting.
get to choose, pick and choose what kind of house you want in the area you want. You can filter it down with parameters. You can do anything.
Yes.
And you can go on these 3D virtual tours.
Literally.
And you can walk through the house virtually and make a decision, right?
Like, what do you think? And they're just
you can share it with your friends.
Exactly.
Right? Have a discussion about,
it's weird, but
it's crazy. You don't have to go to an open house on Saturdays or Sundays anymore and take a pamphlet and have to talk to, whoever's trying to pitch the house to you and listen to someone ramble on about crown molding and 42-inch cabinets with, hardwood. Like,
and some people love that, but it's like niche. Like it's not like a lot of people that like it. And dude, kudos for the people that want to build their house. Do you ever want to build your house, or do you feel like?
No, man, I don't personally. But I definitely see how great it can be. The ability to customize
your own,
your own space. And I think real estate's so interesting that if you buy something, right? If you buy something real estate, there's a small plot of earth that is now yours.
That's weird to say.
Right?
I mean, now
you own this space on the planet. Right. And what you want to do with it, you can do. I mean, minus your zoning and regulation laws, right? You can't put a tiny house in a gated community worth multi-million-dollar houses.
Exactly.
But, to some extent, you have the freedom of choosing what you want to do with your space.
Right.
And building your own house is a really cool way of completely customizing everything to your needs, right? So I think it's a really cool way. Yeah.
Dude, that's the thing. When it comes down to it, I don't know. You seem like a very knowledgeable person, and it comes across also as somebody kind of would know what to look for.
Yeah.
What do you think are some things that people our age should be looking for?
So,
Whether that be in real estate, whether it be in anything. Man.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, in terms of real estate, before you venture into any new opportunity, right? You want to make sure that you're financially sound. Yeah. That your personal
what does that
finance.
Mean? Just
so that your personal finance is at a comfortable spot, meaning that, build out an emergency fund for yourself. That's always kind of step one. First build it to maybe 1 month of your expenses, maybe then expand it to 6 months of your expenses to where, if something horrible, God forbid, were to happen, you can survive without $1 coming in for 6 months. Right. Build that emergency fund. Next step, pay off your debt. Right.
See, that's what Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. Pay off your debt. Start with the high interest debt because you're being charged more for that debt.
Snowball effect.
Yes. You have the snowball method, the avalanche method, all that good stuff. Yeah. Mathematically, the best thing to do, pay off your higher interest debt.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Then worry about your lower interest debt.
Student loans.
Student loans, credit card debt is killer. Some of these interest rates are like 15 to 20, insane percentages.
Insane, man. We can go on a rant for ages.
You can pay a percentage to your principal on your credit card debt, and the interest itself makes it so formidable that you're really not paying off anything.
Exactly. It's so bizarre. And you look at it, I looked at it once, and I'm like, this is how much I literally paid this much, and only this much was paid. Like, it's so crazy.
It's ridiculous.
It's really ridiculous, man.
So pay off your debt, right?
Okay.
Watch your expenses. Make sure that's all fine, and then start saving for things you really care about. Is it your first house? Is it an investment property?
Right. But Josh, I'm so young.
Yeah.
I want my Starbucks coffee. How do I combat that? What if I want those impulses?
Yeah. That's a great question. So one of my, I would say, finance mentors that I'm
literally putting you on the spot.
No, that's fine. That I was reading. Maybe we can link this book in the show notes.
Right.
It's called "I Will Teach You to Be Rich" by Ramit Sethi. Okay, that book. First of all, I love his tone.
Right.
The author goes into depth in a way that he's talking at you directly to your face, being blunt. Like, this is what you should do, and this is what you shouldn't, and this is why. In a way that people our age really understand and sort of gravitate to.
Right.
And one of his, lines that became really popular and famous is, don't worry about the $4 questions. Worry about the $40,000, the $40,000 questions.
Right.
Meaning, if you want to go out and buy this $4 latte or this $4 coffee, do it. Don't hold back on the tiny stuff.
I've actually heard that. And I think he was on a podcast was talking about that stuff.
It's a bestseller book for a reason, right? Because it's not just like gray matter and you're just really bored reading this guy, making you feel bad about what you're doing,
right? And
telling you just black and white what to do, what to not do.
Right.
It's more like he's having a discussion that's making you look in the mirror and self-reflect and figure out, again, what you want to pour your money into, and what's the right way. So, going along with it. So again, you want to save that emergency fund. When you pay off your debts, you want to start saving, for things you really believe in. You want to budget, and it doesn't have to be black and white. It doesn't have to be, I'm only going to spend $10, today on food.
Right.
You can have a little flexibility, but 100%. Just something that keep you accountable.
Yeah.
Right. And so, after you have this personal finance area sound and you're confident in it, then you can venture into
other things, yeah.
So, once you kind of have your foundation and your principles, then you can start building on that.
Right.
Right. Then you can start maybe investing in stocks.
Right.
Maybe real estate investing. Right. How do I grow what I already have? And so, when you ask me the question, what kind of properties do you look at? What kind of houses do you look at to buy?
Right.
There's a really good, I would say, a very general rule of thumb, right? And we're talking about houses that are on the cheap end, not like the $400,000.
Well, things that would be kind of feasible to buy.
So,
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
so-
but not like
so-
super crappy where it's
Yeah.
a fixer upper and you're
Yeah.
going to spend more time and effort.
Yeah,
in
so
it.
there are a lot of ways to do it. I would say a really easy rule of thumb is called the 1% rule. And a 1% rule means that a house should rent for 1% of what it's worth every month.
Okay.
Take a house that's worth $100,000. It should rent for at least $1,000.
Right.
Again, this is near impossible in high cost of living areas like San Francisco, Seattle,
Right.
New York City. You're not going to hit those numbers.
Right.
And they can operate on a different sort of metrics.
Right.
But in other areas, it works.
Yes.
And-
Are you saying that based off Orlando? Oh, or are you just saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, or it will work in Orlando.
Yeah.
It's hard to find these deals. It's really hard.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe I'm kind of just saying maybe because it's very touristy here.
Yeah.
I think it'd be different. But that's why I'm asking more questions because I'm also like just someone that wants to learn more.
Yeah.
But this is what I think. More questions I ask can kind of help somebody else.
Yeah. So
I'm just glad you're being reciprocated.
yeah, no, that's fine. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So we are closing on a townhouse in Orlando next week. And again, going hand in hand with this 1% rule we're talking about, this townhouse was on sale for around $145,000. Okay. Let's use the 1% rule. It should rent for at least $1,450.
Right.
Okay. It does. Luckily we're able to get it for a little cheaper and we're closing next week. So we're pumped about this.
Right.
And we're pumped about this because it's one step closer to our goals of not working.
Right.
Right. And so if you want to get into the numbers, right, why does the 1% rule work? The 1% rule basically states that, after you pay your mortgage, after you pay property taxes, after you pay your HOA fee, if there's an HOA fee.
Most likely there would be.
Most likely there would be, right? After you budget for maintenance in the house, vacancy, if there's no one renting it for maybe a month.
Right.
Capital expenditures, which is your really big ticket items like a roof replacement or an AC replacement or replumbing the whole house.
Right.
After you budget for all of these things, you're still cash flow positive.
Huh.
So again, let's talk about this townhouse, right? We're buying it for about $140,000.
Okay.
And usually the way properties work, the conventional way to do it is to put 20% down.
Yes.
Okay. So after you put 20% down, the mortgage for that house is looking at around $700 to $750 a month is your mortgage.
Right.
Okay. Interest rates are so low now, so it's a very manageable mortgage. Like we said, it rents for $1,450 a month. Right? So let's say my mortgage is $750 a month. My rent is $1,450. That means I'm cash flowing $700 a month, right? And yeah, I'm putting some aside, maintenance. Maybe if I want to have a property manager, I can hire him on. Capital expenditures, vacancy, all of these ticket items I push aside. And maybe if I want, I'll take in all that $700.
Right.
Maybe I'll just take in a couple hundred and leave some in a savings for, emergency rainy day fund for that property. But that's a way to scale. So think about it, right? I'm getting $700 a month. Multiply that over 12 months, right? That's around $8,400 a month in cash flow, right? Now, real estate has so many strengths.
Yes.
And one is if the way it's taxed is beneficial. The way, the house can appreciate over time, right? The value of the house was $140,000 today, but, give it 10, 15, 20 years. What will it be? Will it be in an appreciating area that maybe it'll go up to $200,000, right? Possible. And, during those 10, 15, 20, 30 years, however long I want to hold it, I'm going to earn at least $700 in cash flow for the rest of eternity.
Right.
Right. And that's just until the mortgage is paid. And then when the mortgage is paid, because the tenant is paying the mortgage every month, you're not doing anything, right? Once the mortgage is paid, you're making the full rent in cash flow.
Yes.
Then you're getting $1,450, $1,450 in cash flow every month. What is that? After the mortgage is paid, what is that in a year? That's over 17 or 18 grand. That's just one property.
Right. And
Right.
like, I'm not even saying like you're spitting a lot of numbers, but at the same time, people need to get more financially literate.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
literate.
financially
There you go.
literate. And I'm thinking about that. I was like, financially literate.
Yeah.
I fuck up all the time.
No,
but
man,
it's okay. But I need to just get literate.
Yeah.
But it's what's crazy. We'll get to one more thing just because I love everything you're saying right here. And dude, I don't know why, but I think of it for people that are dumb like me. Literally, it's kind of like Monopoly, and I'm like, this is why I think I'm like, is this why fucking Monopoly is so addicting?
Monopoly is
it's
addicting
a fucking
because
asshole.
of this. This is real world Monopoly.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I can own people in this game, and I'm like, but in real life, I don't know. It's just like the risk factor. But anyways, everything you're saying, man, everything is awesome, phenomenal for anybody that wants to learn and dabble into this stuff.
Yeah.
Does that still hold up even in the COVID age? Like everything that you're saying right now, especially starting out, I guess that's how we can end it, is like, what are the things that they should be looking at just to get out of this whole pandemic situation financially? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you have some say so in that? Like,
sure.
Like, this is why I'm kind of like asking.
I think COVID has taught us a lot about security and having a safety blanket.
Okay.
And so that first step I talked about, building an emergency fund.
Yes.
I think that's more important than ever.
Ever.
Right.
Yeah.
How many people do you know that have been terminated, furloughed, or
a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like,
a lot of people. So, a lot of these people may have been living paycheck to paycheck.
100%.
Even though they didn't have to, but they were used to a certain lifestyle of earning and spending and earning and spending, and it's just a rat race, and you're on this wheel,
It's crazy
on the
when you
same
say it
wheel.
like that. Yeah.
Others, may have saved a little more and can withstand 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. And so your financial security and your safety blanket, your emergency fund is more, is bigger than ever. And so, I can be pretty conservative in that. I like to have a whole year of expenses just stocked away.
Yeah.
Who knows, what can happen in life. Life is very unexpected sometimes.
And now you have a family, like, and for future reference, were you always like that? Or is that just like whenever you were also family, it kind of heightened it?
I always valued safety.
Yeah.
And, COVID has kind of highlighted that.
Highlighted it.
Yeah.
And the crappiest terms for people that, whatever your situation is, it just sucks.
Yeah.
But this is why I ask, like, do those still hold up even right now? And it should. I think so, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. If not, it brings more light to it.
Right.
These sound financial principles that, we're put in really tough spots these days.
Yeah.
Even, as a landlord,
Yes.
There's some landlords out there that, they're not giving their tenants any breaks, which is their choice, right? They own the property. The other landlords might give a tenant maybe a month discounted, 2 months discounted. But at the end of the day, we're all people, right?
Yes.
Everyone's in it for the same reason. Right. The tenant might say, man, I'm paying $1,000 in rent. What is my landlord doing with that money? If I don't pay a month, my landlord's going to be okay.
Right.
He doesn't need the money.
No, yeah, obviously. And that's the thing, like, also depends on the landlord.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's actually not true, right? Because the landlord, they're just taking the money and they're paying the mortgage.
Right.
Right. They're in the same, they're in the same position. So at the end of the day, we're people.
Right.
Right. And, it's all about connections and doing the right thing too. If your tenant if your tenant is having some, difficulties during this time, be responsive, be respectful.
Right.
Maybe they're getting a little rental assistance, but we're not really, being helped that much.
True.
So, but at the end of the day, you know, these are trying times for everyone.
Yeah.
And so rather than, you know, being a stickler and rigid, right? Again, it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, you know, being able to adapt, being flexible with the situation. Even after you buy an investment property, you know, you might not get rent for a month or two. You know, you never know. You never know what can happen.
True.
So you got to be flexible. But as long as your foundation's good, you'll be able to withstand, you know, pretty much anything.
Dude, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
How do you feel? You feel good?
Oh man, I feel great.
Awesome,
Yeah.
man. I'm happy you came on, Josh.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, I've been wanting to dabble into this whole real estate side of everything, even just the ideas of being financially good, and I want to find more people that can bring more perspective to that. You know what I mean? Whether it is like maybe debt, or you know, it has to be a school, or you know, real estate. It doesn't matter. I just think all of those things people want to know about, especially younger generations. Like, you know, it really sucks, like, having only one way to learn things. And I think having a podcast is a great way to do it. And dude, I just want to say thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me on. It's been great, man.
Dude, thanks, man. Well, what do you have coming up next, man? Where can people find you? Do you have like anything that you want to give them out so that way they kind of know maybe a little bit more about you?
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of ways you can find me. I'm on Instagram at jparpia.
Yeah.
Facebook, Joshua Jorgen Parpia.
No, nice.
You can find me on LinkedIn. Even email, you know, joshparpia@gmail.com. You know, if you want to talk real estate, if you want to talk about finance, you know, personal finance and investing, you know, feel free to connect.
All right.
Be happy to help, you know, especially here in Orlando. If you're local, hit me up, you know, let's talk.
You heard it there.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we're going to end it here. This was another episode of the Slice of Life podcast. I'm going to have all of his information once he gets it to me, all in the link down below for anybody that's watching us on YouTube. For those of you that are listening on the podcast itself, sorry. I'm just kidding. I'll try to put it up there also. But folks, hit that like button, subscribe, do whatever you can to support this channel, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.
Peace.